Okay, we are on our way to the downtown public library of Los Angeles. Why are we going to the library? I'm going to tell you why. I, like many people, am a huge fan of the numerous YouTube videos dedicated to the Illuminati, because I'm a sucker for red and neon green font against a black background. That being said, we are going to the downtown public library because it is a monument to all the symbolism, all the occultism, all the Illuminati-ish that you could ever hope for, thanks to two people, Bertram Goodhue, the architect, and Lawrie, the sculptor. Bertram Goodhue was an infamous architect who did a number of very high-profile public projects. One of them that is most of note is Rockefeller Chapel at the University of Chicago. Don't forget the name Rockefeller is going to become important in a little bit. Lawrie was his partner on a number of these projects. One of his most infamous works is Rockefeller Center, which has as one of its central pieces the infamous Atlas sculpture. Both of these guys are both associated with one name that will be repeated over and over again in every Illuminati video that you watch: Rockefeller. Why is it that Rockefeller, Lawrie, and Bertram Goodhue are all wrapped up in these Illuminati theories? Well, it's because all of them were Freemasons. The Freemasons were and still are today a group of individuals who many claim are behind the New World Order. Jay-Z may or may not be one of them. We'll get into that one at a later date. So the Freemasons are a civic organization, and their official literature is going to tell you that they are vehemently against talking about both politics and God. And as a result of this belief in not wanting to talk about God, they ascribe to a belief in one person or one spiritual force, which is known as the Great Architect. According to them, this is their version of happy holidays, right? This is their version of being able to talk about spirituality in a way that does not ascribe to any particular religious tenet. However, those who are a little bit more conspiracy-minded think that when they are referring to the Great Architect, they are actually referring to something a little bit more sinister, and in this case, something more Luciferian. The reason why people believe this is because there's actually a name that the Freemasons give to this Great Architect, and that name is Jebulon. Jebulon is an amalgamation or an amalgam of three deities' names from the ancient Middle Eastern world. Those three are going to be Jah, which is short for Yahweh, Baal, which we're going to get into in a second, and the last one is On. On is the ancient name for Osiris, who, you may or may not recall, is the ancient Egyptian god of death and the underworld. Baal is also really important for our story. He's the second guy, because Baal eventually becomes the Christian version of Beelzebub. See a pattern? So, the Freemasons are all praying to this dude named Jebulon, who is an amalgamation of three different Middle Eastern deities, two of them who we automatically associate with the underworld. It's gonna raise a couple of eyebrows. The other thing that people refer to when they talk about the occultist theories regarding the Freemasons is the fact that many of their members have historically ascribed to a belief in Luciferianism. I know that word might scare a lot of people, but give it 1 second. Lucifer in this context is not the same thing as Satan. Lucifer and Luciferianism was not a belief in Satanism. They're actually kind of opposing ideologies, opposing beliefs. This person wasn't gonna let me go. Luciferianism and Lucifer is a belief system that sees Lucifer in the role of the bringer of light, that's what Lucifer means, as an enlightening force. And so a lot of 19th century intellectuals, including Bertram Goodhue and Lawrie, believed that Luciferianism and that Lucifer would symbolize the ability for people to become more intellectual, to become more enlightened. A lot of these thinkers during the 19th century thought that the God of the Bible was attempting to keep people in perpetual ignorance in order to be able to control them. They saw Lucifer as being a symbol of man being able to better himself. One story from the Bible that they refer to very often is the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, when they get cast from the garden, it's because they eat the apple, but the apple is from a very particular tree. It's from the tree of knowledge. According to this belief system, according to this ideology, people who are trying to better themselves are actually a little bit more Luciferian. So it would only make sense then that the downtown public library of Los Angeles, built by individuals already operating under this assumption that enlightenment and education are going to be more ascribed to the devil, would then create a building full of secret symbols that are related to the occult and specifically to Lucifer. So we're going to check out all of those things right now. The Luciferian symbolism starts off right at the main entrance of the library. Over the main entrance, you'll see two large figures. On the left, Phosphor, and on the right, Vesper. Phosphor is the ancient Greek name for the morning star, and Vesper the ancient Greek name for the evening star. Both of these stars are actually a planet. That planet is Venus. Venus, however, is in Latin Lucifer. So, these two statues over here, both representations of Lucifer. Around the corner over to the historically main entrance of the library, there are a number of statues that are visible, as well as an interesting quote: "Wisdom is the ripest fruit," that's important, "of much reflection." This is important for us to look at because fruit in this context could be referring to the fruit of the garden, which was from the Tree of Knowledge. Actually seeing the building and all of the symbolism here, it's kind of hard to deny the fact that, yeah, they probably were Luciferians. Behind me over here, you see right in the center of the building, there is on top a torch, which many people refer to as being Lucifer's torch. And if you see the names that are down below, it's Homer and Milton. These two are really important. Homer writes Odyssey, which is about man's journey as an allegory for their ability to be able to become intellectual and to be able to become more enlightened. Milton writes Paradise Lost, which is a 17th century classic work which is talking about Satan's temptation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and their subsequent eating of that juicy apple. Okay, no shit, someone left an apple right outside of the library. The third of the four total entrances into the library is not as ornate as its brothers and sisters are. However, we make up for all of that going into the rotunda of the library. The murals that you see surrounding are painted by Dean Cornwell, who decided to use the topic of civilization for his piece. However, the real showstopper here is the actual chandelier that we will be seeing in just 1 second. What people forget about the chandelier is that it's beautiful, however, it is a world that is lit up. And again, according to Luciferians, Lucifer, the bearer of light, is who lights the world. Alright, so I'm a little giddy right now because all this shit is really cool. Right behind me over here is the Luciferian torch. The reason why we associate this torch with Luciferianism is because Luciferians, they usually refer to their process as being Luciferians as the search for light. So behind me over here, this golden hand reaching up a torch is probably one of the most quintessential symbols of Luciferianism. Leaving the rotunda, we see two sphinxes. Both of these sphinxes are carrying books which contain quotes from Plutarch's Morals, also known as On Isis and Osiris. The name Osiris might ring a bell. That's because it is part of the amalgam for the great architect. On is an ancient Middle Eastern word for Osiris. The quotes are also telling. The left sphinx's quote is, "I am all that was and is to be, and no man hath lifted up my veil." Creepy. The right sphinx's quote is, "Therefore the desire of truth, especially of that which concerns the gods, is itself a yearning after divinity." This is basically a one-sentence retelling of the Adam and Eve allegory, which again is central to Luciferianism. The Statue of Civilization, which stands in the middle, is also super important because it holds a book of quotes. These quotes all basically say, "Keep on learning and listen to Black Sabbath." In the very center on the first floor, we will also find an 8-pointed star, also known as the Star of Ishtar. Ishtar, not a household name yet, is the ancient Mesopotamian version of Venus. Venus again is Lucifer. There is also a fourth entryway. You may remember that we've only gone through 3 of them. The fourth one is closed off to the public. It is no longer accessible because of the renovation that was done at the library. However, it is the second entrance after the entrance to the Mark Tabor Auditorium. The quote says, "Love of the beautiful illumines the world." This is an obvious allusion to Lucifer, as he was both known as the most beautiful angel as well as the illuminator of the world. Okay, so $1,000,000 question. Is the Los Angeles Central Library affiliated with the occult? Before I came here, I would have told you no way, but now that I'm here, I think so. I think that the designers of this library basically constructed this to be a temple to Luciferianism. There is a very clear thesis statement to this piece, this architectural project, trying to unite the theories and the philosophies of the East with the West, and to assert a new, intellectual, enlightened, Luciferian global consciousness, and that is read throughout this entire building. So regardless of whether or not you believe in the possibility of this place being a Luciferian temple, it's still a pretty cool place to visit here in Los Angeles, and the architecture is definitely worth a gander. Stalin, say like and subscribe.